is when we see each other here. And
Okay, people, y'all don't know that we've already had 15 minutes of talking, and we love each other. So we have tons to talk about. And this is about the only time we see each other, even though she lives around the corner in the same city I do. So we really have got to put each other on our calendars.
after school starts.
After school starts. That's in September. I'm not starting school until September.
Okay, I've already
And
started.
it's after Labor Day. I'm like, I don't care what my kids think. I am not ready.
Well, it makes it easier. Start when the school system starts. If
Yep,
you're gonna take summers off, it makes it easier.
yeah, and they want summers off now. They used to not. They don't give them complete freedom because they get a little crazy and then they start fighting. So they don't get complete freedom, but they do get not what they usually have. So
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of homeschooling too, is you can do that kind of flexibility.
yeah.
And if you have a kid that's really kind of struggling in one area, you don't want them to have 2 months off of that.
No,
They have to touch
we
it every day.
almost never stop math, and
Yeah.
not that my girls struggle, but Cole had issues when he was younger, and we just never stopped. And so even now, we're taking the month off, but we don't stop math.
That's kind of how we are as far as we lighten it up. I year-round school, so we don't ever really stop. But
Yeah,
we
we
ebbs
don't
and
really,
flows.
because they like the summers off, but they also like they remember their childhood and having big breaks at spring, and they like that too.
Well, it's nicer to have them down here where it's like
Yeah,
right now. Like right now,
yeah,
they'd
it's
rather
all
school
about
now. Yeah.
So we do like a big month in spring, we do a month in the summer, and then we do almost a month around Christmas. So they get a kind of a traditional. I mean, they're getting time off. I just space it different because it's just better for us.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, we're talking about.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're talking about talk about lesson planning, and this is like one of the big requests. And I know I can teach it. I can show you what I do. But I think Heather she just has a great way of communicating information better than I can. So,
well, thank you. Sometimes I over communicate. So I'm going to go ahead and give that disclaimer right now is for everybody watching and on the replay. If there's a lot to lesson planning, but it's the most important thing I think we do is make our plan. So, but I also, if there's questions, clarification, sometimes I talk as if I expect everybody to know what I'm talking about. So just ask. That's what we're here for.
and that's what we tell mamas all the time. Yeah. Questions are not bad. We don't assume you know. So if you have a question, questions are good. Questions are never bad. Repeat questions are awesome because that just shows me that we have not communicated something effectively.
Right. It's an opportunity.
So ask the questions. You are not and you're never a bother. That's what I tell mamas that all the time. I'm like, I want to make a t-shirt. You are never, never, never a bother.
Yeah.
So ask the questions. All the questions.
Yes. That's that you have to do that, guys. So especially if you're new or this is a new concept. I know for me, there's some things I've been studying for 3 years now with my business, and I'm just now going, oh, that's so simple. I made it so hard, but it's like you just get to a point where other things line up and then it makes sense. And sometimes you don't learn it until you're doing it. And so then you fall into it and you're going like, okay, wait a minute. I don't know what to do next. So, and for what we're talking about today, that happens a lot, I think, for mom and dads and whoever's doing the lesson planning. But I think that it's very important that they reach out. Just, take a minute, take a deep breath, take a break. And then if you still don't find what you're looking for, the answers, then reach out. That's why we have these online communities. That's why, you have coaches. That's why you have people, because every aspect of our life, we can't know everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, okay. So what do we do now?
Start.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Heather Reed. I am the owner of Eclectic Virtual Services, which was born about 4 years ago out of necessity. I am a single mom. And I'm a stay-at-home mom and a homeschool mom. I'm just starting my 18th year of homeschooling. So I've had a little bit of experience and I have used every method of homeschooling that there is, because I believe that with your homeschool, if it's part of your life, which it is, it ebbs and flows with your life. So there are seasons where textbook only really makes a lot of sense. It's very practical, or streamlining with virtual school. I've actually never done virtual school in the public school, but I have done an all online curriculum before. So that's as close as I've come to that. But for me, I am an eclectic homeschooler, which I don't know. That's kind of everything I do is a little bit of extra everything. So, but I have had to touch different parts of that according to our season. So with that being said, welcome to lesson planning, and we are going to jump in. Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
Nope.
Before I start, I'm going to share my screen. Okay.
I'll behave.
Okay. Well, I know it might be hard, right? Okay. Let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out.
I know it's not easy. I usually go to the tab.
Is it the application window?
Sometimes that works. Sometimes I think it's called. Okay, my husband's calling again.
Okay. All right. Well, while you do that,
Hello?
Everybody's going to work with me here, and then we're going to get started. Okay. So we're going to talk lesson planning. Now, just so everybody knows, I cannot see any comments. I can't see any of the things. So if you have a question or a comment, just put it in the comment box of wherever you're at. And if I can't get to it on the live, I will be happy to get to it afterwards. And we will hopefully have a Q&A at the end. Okay. So, the other thing, if you are watching this on replay, then go ahead and do hashtag replay so that we know that you caught it on the replay. And it's really good for us to know that you're getting the information. Okay, now let's talk lesson planning. So you've spent all this time, you're trying to figure out what your curriculum is, you've picked all these things, and now you've got a big pile of things that you don't know what to do with. So that's what we're here to figure out. Okay, so who is this really for? First-time homeschool parents, year-round homeschoolers. I've schooled personally, I school year-round and have for about 15 years. We've done a couple of years where we took summers off, and we actually hated it, so we went back to year-round school. Traditional schedule homeschoolers. A traditional schedule in this realm is 180 days. So it's a traditional school year. And I know that where we live, it's not always that. But this is a good average number for pretty much everybody in the U.S. So, and it's also a nice even number. And that's going to be important for scheduling later. So it's for eclectic homeschoolers. It's for classical homeschoolers, unschoolers, Charlotte Mason homeschoolers. And for those of you who don't know what a lot of this is, it's okay. Just pick where you are and we're going to move on. Okay, so housekeeping rules. If you're using a virtual school option this year, you need to follow their schedule. Not necessarily this one. Now, you will have other things that you do outside of the virtual school. So it may be that you need to have some type of loose schedule. And in that case, this would work for you for a more of a bookkeeping purpose, like a record keeping purpose. So because you do want to keep up with what you do. Especially if you're planning to send your children back into the school system at any point, you need to keep really good records. So there are other reasons to keep good records, but we can get into that in another time. So if you're a first-time homeschooler and you have a prepackaged curriculum, please use their suggested schedule to start with, because everything's new. It's set up for you already. Don't reinvent the wheel until you see you have to. Okay. There's no point in getting all stressed out over that. And I've done it. when I first started out, I was going to do it my way, and I really stressed me and my children out. So I didn't feel like I was doing enough, Devin. so, which is a pitfall a lot of us fall into, especially in those first 5 years of homeschooling. So go ahead and just trust us. All of us veteran homeschool moms are telling you the same thing. Don't overbook your day. So check the teacher and instruction manual of your curriculum. This is something that a lot of people forget about, that a lot of your curriculums, Master Books is one of them. Apologia, they have suggested schedules in the front of their teachers' manuals, or some PDF download online. Check with your curriculum that you purchased. For each subject, if you did separate things, because a lot of times they do have a teaching schedule, and it is a very useful tool in planning your homeschool day. Saves you a lot of time. And again, don't try to recreate the traditional classroom in your home. You have 1 to 8 kids in your house versus a classroom of 18 or their classroom is set up for classroom management and to get as much information as efficiently as possible. Your classroom that's the only thing that should look the same, is that you are trying to get across as much information as you need to, as efficiently as possible. And it's not going to take you all day. It shouldn't. So if it does, well, then we need to hop on a call and we'll brainstorm. So, and the thing that I've learned, and start my 18th year here, is plan for the unexpected and expect the unplanned. That's like my new motto. So, it always happens. Something always comes up, and you want to make sure that you've planned in your time. So, but that goes back to something we've talked about, time management. Lesson planning, you do need to understand the time that you have to work with. You need to understand your family schedule, because that's going to all kind of come into the lesson planning. So if you haven't watched the time management workshop we did, then I suggest you go back and watch it at some point. But just for reference, go ahead and kind of map out the things that you have to do in a day that are not school related, and in a week, and set it aside. Include personal time for downtime for you, because an exhausted teacher does not make for a good one. And then you're going to make sure you've got their extracurriculars, any type of, community engagements, plan your chore time, all of that. So you can go back and watch that, because we got a lot to cover. So step 1 to lesson planning. All those beautiful, shiny new things that you just bought, you're going to gather them all together. And then what I do is I sort them by subject. For unschoolers, for unit study people who combine multiple subjects, you can make, like, you would make them in units and not necessarily by subject, or in stacks of how you would want them to work together. So I'll leave that up to you, but this is still, you got to have everything kind of organized in some way. For unschoolers, this lesson planning is for record keeping. I am a firm believer that you still have to have a basic plan in order to get through your school day, because there are milestone moments that you do have to cover, regardless of how you choose to model your school day. And I keep a list of supplies. If you're an unschooler or anybody, you want to make sure you have that list of supplies for your core learning. Be sure you have what you need to make the list. Another caveat when I'm doing this, I don't always buy all of my curriculum at the beginning of the year, because there's a little thing called buyer's remorse and grass is greener syndrome that comes right after Christmas. And you can get a lot of really good used homeschool curriculum that's never been opened for like a fraction of the cost on eBay and the local things. So, because if I'm going to buy it new, I also don't want to store it. So I'll wait sometimes until right around Christmas, and then I'll get my second half, because I'd much rather score those good deals in early January. So that's just a little caveat. But you still have to have it listed somewhere, because if you don't have a list of what you're still going to need, you won't know what to buy. Okay, so as many of you have seen, I have already uploaded this. There are 2 pages to this, but I've only put one for this slideshow. This is a planning page that I use something this is what I do. I map out the books that I'm using. A spine book means the main book that you use for the curriculum. If you are using workbooks, then that's what you're using. If you're using, like I use like the George Washington's World is one of the books I use for history. That's my spine book, and then everything kind of flows with that. So, so you put them in the little things. This is typable. You can download it from the files and in the Professional Home Educators, but you can also just print it out as a PDF and just write it in. You're going to list any additional resources that you need, things you need to add, things you want to add. I like highlighters, and a lot of this part of the lesson planning, traditionally I would use this as I'm starting my plan for the year before I buy my curriculum. I'm putting it together. So, so for most of you, you've already got your stuff, so you may or may not need this step, but you still need to know what you have. And how you want to use it. So activities, lab kits, anything like that. Any field trips that you want to make sure that you use, it's going to, you're brainstorming. This is your brain dump file. So, and it's also really good for people who are unschooling and using unit studies. A lot of unit study people wouldn't even need to do much else beyond that for their actual plans. You would just do that per unit. That way you make sure you touch all the main core things that you have to cover legally, like reading and math and stuff like that. So here's some tips. I would suggest that you consider having a book basket for the week, the month, or the unit, according to which style you're studying. And I suggest the additional readings for like history and science and all those discovery type books. If you make it available and the kids are bored enough, they read it. And we actually, at our home, we let them choose, 2 or 3 books a week out of that selection. And I do change it out according to what section of history and what section of science we're in. But you could also do that with the library books. So it's just a really good way to encourage reading in your home, and also something you don't have to necessarily plan to the T in your lesson plans. So picture books are not just for little kids. Some of the best high school level courses can still use picture books for reinforcement. And frankly, a lot of times they actually have more good information in them, so it sticks. So don't be shy on using those. Pick a list of readers skill appropriate. Don't worry so much about what grade level your kid is on, because that really means nothing. It's just a place to plug them. It's what skill level they're at. And if you have an advanced reader, I had 2 very advanced readers. We had to worry more about content because they were reading well above grade level. So we had to go back a little bit, and then we worried about more. We picked things more with quality messages and well-written literature. And so that was the way we kind of compensated for that. Take time in the beginning of your year to train everyone how to properly complete their chores. Assign those chores, people. You're going to count this for school. Chores do count as part of your school time. It's a home ec. It will pay off for many years to come. So, read out loud books to your children, even your teens. History, science, and family literature are a great source for these things. Audiobooks are really good for quiet time when mama just needs to have a break and they still need to get the information. So branch out. It's a good thing to do. And it does really save your sanity sometimes. Chores count for school subjects. We covered that just a second ago. Plan out your field trip times in the school schedule or they will not happen. Um, that's a big one for me. If I don't plan the ones I absolutely want to get to, then they don't happen because life just gets in the way. Don't be afraid to call a stop to a bad day because we all have them, including our children. Teaching our kids self-control and balance is just as important as math.
Yes.
Helping cook meals is a valuable skill and can be added with chores as a home ec credit. And this starts in like preschool. Children as little bitty can help with different things in the kitchen, and then it builds and grows as you go along. For me personally, that's been a very big lifesaver because now that I am a working homeschool mom, and I decided to go back to school myself. So, because I didn't have enough to do. And so, yeah. So, but because I took the time to train my kids with basic kitchen essentials, they've been feeding me for the last 2 weeks while I've been crazy. So, so it really does pay off, and it helps them to bless their family as well. So, so teach them those skills, because those life lessons are just as important as academics. There's great value in teaching our children the art of the mundane task. So incorporate those into your homeschool. And what I mean by that is your chores, your cleaning, doing laundry, working in the yard, just the things that kind of have to get done. Those are all very important parts of our day. Okay, so now that we've gone through all the housekeeping, we're going to pull it all together. Deep breath. Here we go. We're going to dive in. So, few things to know and remember. Here's my little B. 180 days is a good number to use for scheduling. If you are going to, I use 180 days as well, even though I year-round school. It meets most state standards in the United States. You do also, this didn't make it to the slide, but you do need to check with your state. I suggest going through HSLDA. You can check on their site, print out. This is something I learned when I've homeschooled in 3 states. And so I have learned you print it out, what your state requires, and you make sure the date's on it and put it in a file for your homeschool records for that year. Because that way you know that year you were under the compliance for whatever state you were in. And if it ever comes back, you have that proof written out. So make sure that you are following your schedule for the state you live in. I've lived in 3 states, and all 3 have had totally different requirements. So, so that's very important. If you school year round, you are going to have way more than 180 days. But the cool thing is you can also school 4 days a week, and I actually that if you're going to school year round. So be careful of overscheduling your day. You want to leave time for the rabbit trails and unexpected opportunities, because they're always going to show up, okay? Academics are only a small part of a child's education. Okay, so with those things said, regardless of what kind of homeschooler you are, you fall into 2 basic scheduling categories. You're either traditional school, which is a standard 180 days for the school year. It meets most of the requirements, like we've already said. You plan time off with the school system for the same days as their in-school friends. And you really need a 5-day school schedule, especially starting in middle elementary, so between 3rd and 5th grade and above, because the workload increases on a traditional school schedule. You got to cram it all in. So, but again, you still shouldn't be schooling, 6 to 8 hours a day with a 5th grader. That's too much. Okay, so a year-round schedule. Again, that's what I do. We have a 4-day schedule is ideal for this type of homeschooling. It leaves your 5th day free for field trips and activities like co-ops, service days, other things like that. My kids, that's our day. We kind of run around town, get our chores done, whatever we need to do. works, and you can work 6 weeks at a time, and then you can take a week to 2 weeks off in between each 6-week period. So that's why I was saying I still plan my schedule around 180 days, but I have a lot of built-in flex room as well. And plan your breaks. That goes for either one. Plan your breaks and make sure you're taking breaks because everybody needs it. You just get burnout. So here's a sample of a weekly schedule. Okay, so there are 6 tabs at the top here. So let me see if I can make it show up. Okay, good. Sorry. There's 6 tabs up here at the top. When I started doing this, I needed something that I could have in a binder that my kids could look at for their own schedule. I group my kids together. So I have them, I have a couple in the same grade, or used to. They're all graduated now. So I actually, I group as many of them together as possible. And then on some of these, I will have like Samuel's math here and Joshua's math here. You can add to it. This is just in a basic, but this to me, it gives me a record. And then notice that the days up here are not numbered. They're numbered. They're not day of the week. So what we do is we do a 4-day schedule. So I fill in all of these days for 180 days because that's part of our term. But I go by day 1, day 2, day 3, and then I just pick up where I left off the next day. So it is so much easier to do that. And then if you want to, be a type A, or you really want that extra, you can handwrite in up here T, W, H, F, or Saturday or Sunday, whatever day you did it, that's fine. One of the things I used to do in Missouri for record keeping is I'd actually put the date at the top here because I had to actually keep up with the dates of when we did things. So, so that's something else you can do according to what state you're in. Again, once you know what you're required there, that'll help. And this becomes your master plan. It becomes your basic record for the year. So that's what makes this so much easier. Because you do have literally everything. These are in the files. You can pull it up if you haven't already. And even with unit studies, you do kind of break it down into parts. Unschooling, you break it down into parts. This would serve more for your record keeping after the fact, or planning it out as you go, because those are a little more not as structured, I guess. So for my children, I have one of these assignment checkoff sheets. They want something that's just easy to do. They get in their little role. They know exactly what they're doing. They're like, okay, I have to finish 4 lessons this week in this book, and 3. We actually go through and we write all that out. And then we have, and then we write out right here, we'll put math, 5 lessons plus 2 tests, and then they check it off and just to make sure that they've done it. I add chores. We have chores they have to do every day, and then we have chores that they're responsible for every week. And I count that. We do a reward system for when they finish these things up every week, and so it encourages them to get it done. So let's break it down a little bit further. I hope I haven't lost anybody yet, because it does get a little involved. So with traditional school, you're going to pull up, we'll just say your history textbook, and let's say there's 120 lessons plus your tests that they require. All of this should be spelled out in in your teacher's guides when you're using textbooks. You should have. It'll suggest how many things you should do a week. I actually haven't seen one yet that doesn't do that somewhere, So anyways, but you just count out how many lessons, add how many quizzes and tests that there are in that subject. And then whatever that total is, divide that total by 180. And that's how many lessons you're going to need to do in a week to get through that book in a year. That's it. That is it. So it's really, you do that with chapter books. If you have a spine book that is not traditional school, same thing. You do that with however long you want them to get it done. You just take however many chapters and you divide it by that many days, and then you put it in your plan. So that's as simple as it gets right there. So and then you plug that lesson number into the lesson planner. So and back on our little planning sheet, that's one of the things I do when I sit down before I start typing it out into the big spreadsheet, is I actually just put in parentheses how many lessons per week. It just helps me to know. So for unit studies, a lot of people, when they do a unit study, they put everything into one unit. So if you're studying about birds, you're touching math, science, language arts, history, birding, all sorts of different things in that one topic. Okay, because it's more like a topical study. So you list out what units you want to cover. Even if you use a partial unit study for history, science, language arts, etc., you put them in the order you want to cover them. If you know, on a blank piece of paper. And then I do this for history and science. I do unit study style, and so 1 page per unit study is how we do it. So I have one that's like for history. We do a 4-year history rotation. So we're doing ancient history right now, and within that, it's broken down into Bible times, Egypt, Greece, Rome. That's our units for the year. So I have a page that's Bible times, Egypt, Greece, and Rome, and then the list of my resources on each one of those, because then I've got it if I need it. So, and I just do it on a separate tab and in my spreadsheet. That way, that's that year. So it just makes it easier. You fill in each page of your pages, like I just talked about. You fill them in with your supplies for each unit study. The must-have supplies, the things you really would like to use, and the things that would be nice to have. I have those 3 categories because sometimes there's things that would be so neat, like those history kits that you can get that are interactive, or the history trunks. Those are really neat, but I may not have that many to be able to get that, but I'm going to be on the lookout maybe for a co-op or a field trip group or somebody who is pulling some of that in. And because now I've thought through it and I know I'm looking. I suggest that you include a materials list and activities for at least the first 12 weeks of your studies. That's the first, that's going to be your first 3 months. That's 90 days. Even if you're not sure with a unit study where you want to go from there, at least have 90 days planned out. Okay. You want to include your books to read, where they're located. You can borrow books, you can buy books. Prime Reading is an awesome, once a month, you pay monthly and they read on the digital. There's a lot of books that way. I suggest, if you do a unit study, that you use the On My Own spreadsheet to map out what you're doing in your studies each week, and to make sure that they're meeting your state requirements. That becomes your documentation if you ever had to prove it. So if you spend that little bit of time planning, at least, like I said, the first 12 weeks, and you document it out and add anything that is your record keeping, you have a whole list of everything that you've done in a year, what you're doing, and you have a plan. So keep all of their work. This is something that with unit studies, it becomes it's just really fun to go back and look through for the kids. Keep it in a large D-ring binder for the year, because it makes a really cool yearbook at the end of the year. And then you can also go back in and add, do those little digital printouts of their pictures of when the field trips they did. I take pictures of their science projects, anything like that. And then it literally becomes like their yearbook for the year. So, and they love looking at them. So unschooling. So I have my little guy playing a guitar because it was, yeah. So I suggest for unschoolers that unschoolers, a lot of you, you kind of are child led in what they want to discover. There are a lot of different ways to unschool. If you are interested in that, I know that some of the parents, Devin, we have several unschoolers in our group, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so if there's people that want to know more about unschooling, and I know there's some other ways to record keep with unschooling, I suggest that any of you unschoolers put a shout out on the Facebook.
We have a how to keep a portfolio in the group already with let me think. I forgot her name. This Carla and the Sensational Six. She has a YouTube channel. She has awesome videos.
Yes.
Tamika Petaway is going to talk later this month, and we have a unschooling 101 in the group. So we have a couple of them in there.
Yeah, so I really do suggest if you're unschooling that you actually plug in because there are with other unschoolers and with Devin, y'all just heard several other things. So do a quick search in the group because this is unschooling can be a lot of fun. And you can do it all the way through high school, but you do need to make sure that you're keeping records. And like you said, the portfolio. So there may be, this way may or may not resonate with you as an unschooler. And because that's very important with unschooling, that you find something that works for you. And that's great, but it will work if you need something at least to get you started. So I suggest, I don't know if y'all can hear my kids, but they're having a lot of fun. So either the planner pages, print them out or fill them in on the computer. Under each category, add the subjects that you want to cover for the year, and this becomes your loose plan. So this isn't telling you what to do. This isn't telling you everything that you have to do. But there, even with unschooling, I think there's a misconception that there's just like no plan at all, and that's not true. It's yes, it's delight directed, but there's a lot of guided activity because you still got to get math done, and but the ways you go about doing those things may vary. But the main reason to do something like this is to make sure you've got your materials. That you have what you need to cover the things that need to be covered, and to give your kids the maximum opportunity to do to learn. So anyways. Print out the weekly checklist if you want them to track specific things for the week, like their chores, or if you want to make sure they've covered the subjects of math, if they've read something that day, if they've done if they've done something with history, whatever you want, just to kind of give them a sense of, hey, look what I've accomplished. But yet they can pick what they want. I know one lady who unschools, she actually uses a checklist similar to this, and she has her older kids like starting in second grade as part of their handwriting. She has them write in what they chose to do for that subject. So she just has the different subjects listed out. And so I know some unschoolers don't even necessarily differentiate, but in her state, she has to have, in Missouri, you have to have 1,000 hours, and you have to prove how so many of those hours have to be in specific subjects. So so we had to find a way for her to still give her children the type of learning that she felt like they needed and that they thrived with, but also to meet the state requirements. So anyways, so in the spreadsheet, if you decided to use the spreadsheet, it would literally only be to type in what you did. It just becomes your record keeping journal for places like Missouri and other places that require you to show in by subject what you've done, because they really they want it listed out. They want it to be as compartmentalized as possible. And I do speak from personal experience and having to deal with them on that. So not with unschooling, but with homeschooling in general. So anyways, I've also found for when you're doing unschooling, because I do more delight directed and unschooling in when they're little. I think just a standard, here, I've got one right here, planner. A paper planner is just so awesomely amazing when you're unschooling, because it becomes your journal. And then could you see that, Devin?
Yeah, I can kind of see it.
Okay. I'm like, so, and these handy dandy little, like, can you see this? Because I can't see
Not
what you
real well, but let's see. I'm gonna see if I
can.
can pull you up.
How's that?
Uh,
Okay, I don't know if anybody can see this, but you just literally can. It becomes a log, like a journal, and um,
mhm.
and then
Yeah.
you've got it for this school year. It's super simple. They're what, $5 at Walmart. So,
Mhm.
but you do need to keep some kind of record. And one of the things that a friend of mine who does unschooling, she said one of the things she does is if it was something that they really enjoyed, she actually highlights it, because it's something they'll revisit and she'll pull out to make available to them again. And if
Yeah.
it's something that she just like drove her insane, like kazoos, there was my friend, she decided they were going to learn music and they did like those kazoo things. They disappeared really quick, because that was the year we got all that snow up in Missouri. It was awful. So it was like just different things, because when you have multiple children, a lot of times you might not remember, and then you've got to go
That's
back.
very, very important to underline, because you do not want to you don't want to rely on your memory.
Yeah,
So,
because yeah. If I didn't have, I have a whole file of what we did the year before, and if I didn't have that, I would be so lost, because I don't remember what I did with some of this stuff 6 years ago. You know, a lot's changed in 6 years. Excuse me for a moment. So you want to keep some type of record, for your own sanity as well as for the state records. And if you unschool, please take lots of pictures of what they're doing. And I say that because it is fun, but I also say that because if you're in a state that requires proof, which I have lived in one and have had to provide proof one time, you have to prove what you've done with them, especially if you're an unschooler, because they're just like, what do you do all day? You watch TV and they just goof off, and that's not true. So make sure you take those photo moments. If you don't want your kids' faces in the pictures, then take a picture of their back. But really what this does, it becomes like, again, their yearbook, and you have a journal of their learning, and they love looking at these things. My college students love going back and looking at their history notebook that we started when they were in 3rd grade, and just like how silly some of their answers were. They love that, and they're 20, you know. So homeschooling, so there's a lot on this page, Devin, because this is what I do, and
yeah,
at the most.
this is me too.
Yeah, so I cannot box myself into one category, because I just can't. And I have 5 children. They each have a totally different learning style. They also have so I have some with sensory needs. I have 2 with Asperger's. I have, 1 with severe medical issues. 1 with Tourette's and ADD. Well, 2 with ADD. So it gets really interesting schooling. And I also believe in putting as many things together as possible and as much group activity as possible too. So that puts us into the eclectic category. It just means basically that you use a combination of all the different learning styles, and you adjust it to what works best for your family. That's not just your kids' learning styles. I think, Devin, this needs to be understood. It's your season of life. It's your busyness of life. It's
Mhm.
everything, every aspect of what's going on. You adjust. This is what it means to be eclectic. So, for example, okay, so I gave some examples. I use online or textbook math, and actually, we are using teaching textbooks online this year. We're trying it out, and we print out the workbook and and then they plug in their answers online to check it. So,
Yes.
because I have children that have to have the tactile do it, and sometimes they still have to build it. It's just the way that we learn best. So we need that textbook to write it down, and that's just so I do. They do. Uh, We add math games, we add manipulatives, we add cooking for our math. We have spine books with living books for both history and science. I add a timeline, maps, unit study pages for integrated history notebooking, science experiments, online videos, interactive games, field trips. Most of our field trips are virtual because, like I said, I work from home, and I don't have a lot of time outside of running kids to and from work and school. Like I have two in college. So language arts, I use a mix of history, of living books and workbooks and games for my language arts. My high school literature and writing are integrated into my history curriculum because I don't have time to do a separate writing program. We do, as a caveat, we do a mini unit study on 5-paragraph essay when they're around 5th grade, and we do a mini unit on APA and MLA style essay writing, and I show them how to find the resources so that they can put it in the proper format. And for all of you who have graduated, students that still live at home, hire them to grade your other child's papers. It's awesome. So I just started doing that this year with one of my college students, and she's actually helping my other high school student to work on his essays and helping me with grading. And so that's been really neat because it sparks a lot of conversation and it builds relationships where I think sometimes it's a little bit harder as they get older between them. So I use a Bible curriculum from Apologia. It's a textbook type. It's that Who is God series. And we added the notebooking aspect to it for the youngers. We do foreign language on a website on the computer, and then we have interest-based subjects that they get to pick 2 every year, and then we follow those until we just can't stand it anymore. And then chores. I always have chores on the list. So this is literally what I do. Oh, hold on. I don't know how to go back, but anyways. Oh, well, we'll move on. Y'all probably read it. So, but the main thing with eclectic is you've got to separate it out into the subjects that you're going to be using, and then you just map out what you want to do with it. We do generally a very loose schedule, and we just go with the flow until we're done. That's what we do. We do 30 minutes to 45 minutes of math a day. Makes it super simple. I do because my kids are all older. I would never do that with somebody under 3rd grade ever. So we do our reading and our some of our grammar is a little bit separate in our workbook. I allot 30 minutes for that, plus a game twice a week. And then history, that's my big one because history and some of the Bible and literature are all combined. So that's an hour for us. And again, I have older kids. My youngest is in 6th grade. So because I have multiple subjects combined, it takes us an hour to work through it. And that we do together. And then science, they do on their own. And usually it takes them between 20 and 30 minutes with their science curriculum. And that includes experiments. So, and that's our day. And that's what we do. So for one child, if you've got one child, you have one set of curriculum, it's pretty cut and dry. So, but like many of us, we have multiple children. So I wanted to give you, for 2 reasons, I pulled this. So I don't know if anybody has noticed, but that's like a full day that starts at 7 a.m. This is a schedule that I used 6 years ago. And there was a lot going on at the time. There were some requirements in my home at the time that were beyond my control. And so I had to be very careful how I filled my days. And so, but I did want to tell you, this might run everybody until 4:30, 4:30 down here. We were usually done by 2:30. So these times are only for suggestion. It's more important that you have a flow. So Devin, we were talking a little bit earlier about having to rotate resources, right? Before we move on. This is where a schedule would be very helpful. If you've got one computer and you've got 5 people that have to get through that computer, you can't everybody have that time on the computer at the same time. So this becomes, it literally becomes like your weekly life schedule. And I add as many details as I can. I include piano. If we, one year we had some kind of sports activity. It was in there. Everything was in there because I learned really fast when you live in a state that you have to count hours and hours in Missouri, you count everything. So this was from when I lived in Missouri. And so that's why there's so much in there. Because, harp and piano and violin, that's not always stuff that people would count. But I suggest you count that as a credit. It helped my daughter get a scholarship to UM. So, just so keep up with these things because it is very, but I also have like quiet reading activities and the weekly chores for me. I would myself on the right end because it's just easy to look. I've got dinner, whatever our evening chores are, free time play. I schedule free time play for my kids. I still do that because if I don't schedule it, then they don't have that ability to go and just be themselves and be free. And but I never have free time until after they get their main stuff done. No free time till chores are done at my house because otherwise the chores don't ever get done. And so I suggest if you are going to have multiple kids that you group your children together into anybody who's within a 3 range can pretty much learn together fairly easily. History, science, read alouds, those are all very easy to pull in, even the littles. And there are some curriculums that are set up this way. And frankly, if you're newer to homeschooling, I suggest you look into a family style curriculum. There are several. Because I just think it fosters not just a love of learning, but a sense of community within your home. So, and it keeps everybody from being so compartmentalized. But then you also don't have to do every subject together because, your calculus child is not going to be very patient necessarily with your younger that's just learning how to count. But they really make really good partner teams. We've done that too, where you assign in school time an older to work with a younger on certain subjects as you are working with them. And if you're a working mom, this also helps too. It's not their responsibility to teach your kids, helping facilitate. It teaches your older kids patience and communication for younger kids, and it teaches the little ones maybe something different than how you would teach them. So, but anyways, add your daily schedule to your master list and post it with the calendar for easy reference. When you have multiple children, Devin, you know this. I mean, they only get bigger and there's a lot more moving pieces. I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm a Russian plate spinner a lot of times and everything's important and you can't let anything drop, and so because they get bigger, they go out and do more things. So it's very important when you're home that you have the flow. And like we said, and then it helps you sort out like who gets the piano first. If you've got multiple people taking piano, they have times. Who gets to work on the computer? Who's doing all those other things? Because if you slot those times, your day literally flows from that. And so doing a schedule like this, it will take a little bit longer, I think, to start with if you've never done it before. But I think it's essential to lesson planning because you also have to plug in your together time. So if you're, and you have to make sure as the mom, if y'all look over here on this yellow time, this yellow column over here, like I worked with Joshua on all of his, I called it mom and me time because at that time he needed me. So we did math, we did language arts. We would do some of his spelling, anything that was just me and that child. that was his time. And that's what we did. I worked with Samuel. I worked, and then like down here, this was Joshua's language arts time because we needed it to flow. And that way I made sure that I touched each child's needs and we had that one-on-one time, because otherwise I don't know, if you don't have that planned out, you don't know the flow of your day. Now I was not working outside the home out and homeschooling at the time. So I had like my whole day I could structure that way. But you could definitely still do this if you are working. Again, you just have to know your pockets of time, because that becomes the time that you do that other thing. So to me, this is one of the most important parts of lesson planning, is knowing your schedule. And because you can have all that stuff, you can have a plan, but if you don't have the time to do that plan, then you need to rethink what you're doing. So, because that's what it boils down to. Anyways, so some final thoughts on this part of everything is start slow. Especially if you're new, you're coming out of the gate, you're doing something you've never done before. You're trying to figure it all out. You don't know where to look for things. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry. You're trying to do a lot of new things all at once, and it gets very overwhelming. I think sometimes we think because we're adults that we're just supposed to have it all figured out, and we don't. And our kids see that. But when you allow yourself the grace to start slow, when you allow yourself the time to ease into something new, a lot of times it goes more smoothly, and you naturally kind of work out the kinks without having a meltdown at week 4, crying and going, I can't do this, I'm putting him back in school. So when I'm talking to new homeschool mamas, or even homeschool families that are transitioning to a different type of homeschooling, this is what I tell you. If you're in virtual school, then or you have somebody else guiding your school, you will not have the option to change the flow necessarily of what you're doing, but you do have the option to change what you're doing everywhere else in your home for those first 2 weeks. And so everybody can do this. This is not, it doesn't really matter how you're schooling at that point. You might have to get a little more creative, but I just think that getting into a routine is that's what's important. So how we do this, we actually, for the first few days, we get our stuff set up. I make them help set up their school stuff. Because then they've touched it, they know they have it, and they are responsible for it. You introduce it. So day 1, a lot of times we just introduce what we're doing and what's expected. We fill out their little weekly chart according to each child that looks a little bit different. And then they have a place, and we assign the, chores for the fall, go on their little chore thing. And, we talk about the rewards, and then what happens if you don't get it done. And it's like the expectations. And if you go to school, you're doing that anyways. Like the first week, that's what you do. So we try to make it special, and we ease in. I always start with math. I always have math going. And then I pick something else that would be affected by not, that I don't want to have to cram in later or work longer on later. So that's usually science, just because that's something that they all enjoy. I have boys. And so those 2 subjects are pretty much our 2 main subjects for the first week. And then the second week I add in the history, and then sometimes the language arts now that they're older. But with the youngers, language arts is really a fun one to do first. That and math, just in science, those 3 alone for the first 2 weeks are a lot of fun, and because there's a lot that you can do to get started, and then just kind of build it in, and then you wean it off at the end of the year. So it's better. I see this a lot, Devin. I mean, I'm sure you see it too. How many times we have, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I'm failing my kids. My kids are failing this. My kids are failing that. They're behind. They're this. Okay. All I have to say with that is stop. Focus on what they're doing right first.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about what they didn't get done. Don't worry about, I'm not saying that you don't want to, like, for instance, I have one that has dyscalculia. We did not know that until she was in 5th grade because she hit it so well. And once we started hitting algebra, it showed up. Well, actually long division, but anyways, but she felt so defeated. A lot of times our kids, they feel really defeated if they disappoint us or if they can't figure something out. And they need to hear what they've done right. And say, okay, yeah, so you're having a hard time over here, but look at this thing you did over here. We're going to figure out where the disconnect is with this math thing or with this whatever thing. Mommy's going to do some research and we're going to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all these other things that you did. Look at how much you accomplished and look at how hard you tried. That is so good. They need that. And if you pour that into your kids, then they won't be afraid to try other things that are hard, right?
Yeah.
And also, they learn at their own rate. Especially little boys. I don't know. All of my boys, they did not catch on to traditional learning until they were like 9 or 10. And then
I saw that with Paul.
Yeah, but they were still learning. I had to be very active with them in the earlier years. And so we did a lot of unschooling activities and unit studies because of that. But
movement.
Yes, lots of movement. Any workbook we would work on for 20 minutes and then we'd have 10 minutes of activities. We even did like jumping jacks and things while we did
our are they called brain breaks?
Yeah, well, we would do them. We would do them with our, like, anything we were memorizing. We would do push-ups, jumping jacks, jump rope, anything, because they memorized that way. They had to be active.
Even in homeschool, Cole would do work, and then he would run outside with his soccer ball. And he did it himself. He would go do something else. Then he'd run back outside with a soccer ball.
Yes, and
boys need lots of movement and lots of activity.
And plan in between the activities. If your kid's been sitting more than 30 minutes, like we've been sitting here a while, and I don't know about you, but I'm ready to move around, right? So, and I'm an adult. So imagine these little kids full of energy, right? So plan that into your homeschool day.
I had a friend who would put her son on the treadmill with spelling words.
Yes.
You can buy those yoga balls, and they even make them where they have seats now, because a lot of schools will use them to help kids pay attention.
Well, I roll off the other end of them, so yeah.
Yeah, they made them for school, and they have like a seat, so you have to balance, but it has a seat. So these things will help engage their brain while they're learning, so that I don't know, it just helps.
Yes.
ADD, a cup of coffee is not going to kill your child.
Yes.
There are ways to, I had a friend of mine that was having trouble with her daughter. She would send her out on the trampoline, then she'd come in, have some coffee, and then she would do her math, and it helped. So there are ways you can work through it. I think being active is, especially little kids, they need it.
Well, they need it and you need it. Because if you make them sit still long enough, then your whole day just got shot. We have a lot of control over how our school day runs. I think we don't realize it, and because it's all these other little things.
We forget that curriculum is a tool.
That's all it is.
Not a rule, and we are in control of that curriculum.
That is it.
As a traditional homeschool mother, if you're doing distance learning or school at home, you're not in control completely.
But you are in control of the second that computer goes off, and that's why you're going to have to pay special attention. Yeah. So regardless of how you homeschool, learning is not in a vacuum. We can compartmentalize our learning. We can sort it out into subjects. We can spread out. But at the end of the day, all those different components are just ways for us to process information. They are not necessarily exclusive of one another.
Mhm.
So we have to remember that. And learning ebbs and flows. Sometimes our brains can put a lot in it, and sometimes they can't. And so you need to teach that to your children, because they will grow up as adults and know, okay, I've hit my limit. I know I need to go do this now. Because that's what we're doing, is we're teaching them how to be in this world, and so, and that's like what you said, the academics, it's a tool to get to that, but it's not
Mhm.
the be all end all. But I will say, because we do have to do the academics,
Yes.
that if you will take a little bit of time, like it says at the bottom, if you have a little bit of planning now, creates a smoother year.
Yeah.
And it really does. And it doesn't matter what type of homeschooling you do. It doesn't matter if you're virtual schooler or not. Take the 2 hours. Now I will say, because I use a whole lot of living books. I mean, like, I have 2 buckets out in my hall right now, and that's our school stuff for the year. That I've gone through, and I put all my stuff on there. Um, it's it took me 3 hours to get it all done, because I'm planning for 3 kids and
Mhm.
2 of my college students that are helping. So I kind of had to highlight a few things, because they needed to know what to do for me. So so but it shouldn't take you very long. I think that when you're first starting out, go ahead and anticipate that you're going to need half a day to really think through your homeschooling. You need to shut the door, get away from get somebody to take your kids. Um, just sit down and just spend the time that you need to spend, and understand, everything takes longer the first time you do it. It's just, accept it, right? So, but it should not take you more than, I would say, from start to finish, thinking out everything, putting everything down on paper, thinking about how you want to do things, thinking about your schedule. If it takes you more than 4 hours maximum first time, and that is a big, I was very generous with that time, then you need to definitely reach out and get some help.
Yeah.
Because and really 4 hours, that's like, stopping every half hour and getting a piece of chocolate and that's kind of mom time, or if you have a spouse that's very invested, doing it together, that'll cut that time down big time.
Yeah.
Um,
One thing to put in here is this is not making the decision on curriculum.
no,
We're
this is
talking about
after
the
that.
planning, because
Yeah.
I don't want somebody freaking out, because I've had lots of conversations this week with
Uh-huh.
picking out curriculum. Picking out curriculum could take forever. So eventually you just have to say, hey, let's make a decision. So
Yeah. Which leads us into this
yeah.
right here. So after talking to Devin, because Devin and I talk a lot on Messenger, because we're neighbors and we never see each other. So we have to take it where we can get it, right? So,
Yeah.
but we've been talking a lot about that, and I've been trying to be more active in the group, because I am a veteran homeschool mom, and I have schooled in multiple states, and it is different for
Mhm.
different parts of the country, and different seasons of life. And I've done the full-time homeschool mom, take them everywhere, and now I'm a single homeschool mom that works from home running my business. Um, so I've kind of been on many sides of this. So I'm trying to answer questions in the group. I'm seeing a lot of repeat questions, and I understand. I've been
Mhm.
helping homeschool mamas probably for the last, oh my goodness, since about 2008. I've sat down with many of my friends, and we have planned out what they want to use. I point people to different resources to figure out what was going to work best for them. And so I've done this a lot. So I wish I could do it for free for everybody, but I can't. But I have discounted my normal consulting rate. I've actually dropped it over 30% for our group and for all of our new homeschool mamas. So yeah. So if you are stuck, I am charging, I think it's $35. And right now it's set for a half-hour session, but Devin will tell you, and working with me on another project. Um,
She goes a far beyond, above and beyond.
Yeah, so we don't stop in an hour.
Listen, Heather was one of the people I called when my hobby business, professional home educator, suddenly became something else. And I'm like, whoa, 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 help, help. I'm in trouble. I don't know what I'm doing. And she went above and beyond helping me with everything and still does. So,
Well, my success is your success,
yeah.
and that's just how I look at it. Um, so we start with a 30-minute session. I am about to launch. I had hoped to have it ready, but I think I underestimated how much time it takes to write
Oh,
all these papers in
yes.
my
No,
college.
wonderful it is.
Yeah, so I haven't quite finished it yet, but I am about to launch a beta of Operation at Home, and we're going to be talking about tips, tools, training for homeschooling and work at home families. So my beta, I haven't gotten a price for it yet because I'm not sure yet, but it's probably going to be under $10 a month, and I'll give more information for people who want to know more about it. Y'all just message me if that's something you're interested in. I always do tell people to get in on the beta because then you get everything for the price of beans. So, and then I think Devin, I didn't have time to add the information from your stuff, but I think that oh, hold on, let me go off of here and let me get off of here. Where are you? Oh, stop sharing.
I don't
Okay.
know where I am. No.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Oh, here we are. Okay. Hey. Okay. I'm back. So, I definitely, I think that you've got some stuff going on
I've
too.
got some stuff going on. I've got courses that are coming out, and then I'm going to have some coaching stuff. I use a platform called Teachable, and they just opened up a whole section for coaching. So
Yeah.
that'll be in the next month. Now that the boot camps are gone, that'll be in the next month.
Yes. So in the
You
meantime,
can the courses. You can go back if you did not get in on the boot camps. You can go back and get those.
yeah, because
And
you recorded them. Yeah,
they're
you recorded them.
recorded. And they
So
actually have some extra. I pulled some workshops from Fee that went along with the subjects, and I threw those in there.
very good. See, guys, I mean, Devin over
There's
delivers all
extras
the
in there.
time.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
extra stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, I just think it's really important for our homeschool families to know they're
Hmm.
not alone. And like I said, I would love to just be able to gather everybody up and just give them a big hug and tell them, you guys are going to do great. Stop overthinking it. But you have to sit down and you have to spend that time planning
Yeah,
because
yeah. And the thing is a wise mama has a plan. And if you have trouble with a plan, Heather's there. I'm here. We have some other mamas who are consultants in the group that I highly recommend. So we can find somebody who's a good fit for y'all.
yeah, because that's the other thing. I think all of us in our circle, we believe in collaboration over competition.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, that's what I told somebody. They're going, "Oh, she's doing something like you," and I'm like, I don't own anything.
Right.
We work together, and I'm like, if I can't do it, I know somebody who can. Because I mean, there shouldn't be competition.
Right. We collaborate together, and I think that
Mhm.
I think people don't see that behind the scenes too. So we are.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of us. We are always like it's almost dangerous to. Yeah.
Yeah. When we meet,
Yeah.
we could rule the world. I think.
Yeah. I'm just satisfied in like making it through my 24 hours, and you know. But I'm like some
Yeah.
days I want to go hide my head under a rock with the world, but we're going to be
Yeah.
like stealth mode, right?
Yeah.
We'll just take over from like we'll just be quiet about it, so nobody tell anybody. But
Don't tell
anyways,
anybody. You're in charge. We really are in charge, and y'all don't tell anybody though.
so but yeah, exactly. So yeah, well, I am very, very excited for all of our new and veteran homeschool parents.
Yeah.
This is going to be, I mean, we're literally embarking on a historical year for homeschooling.
I
And
should say.
And so, with that being said, I'm going to stress once again how important it's going to be for you to make a plan. It doesn't have to be this like elaborate business plan. Okay. It has to be
Yeah.
some type of something you can follow to give you a sense of, it gives you a sense of security. It gives you, it makes you feel like you know what you're doing. And,
Yeah.
and it also shows you, okay, hey, I need help here, or I need help here. This is a great idea, but I can't implement this. So I need to go back and look at some different ways to put things together. And
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah,
very important.
even me, I had something change in my life. Even though I've had 17 years of homeschooling,
Mhm.
I looked at Heather and go, whoa, I don't know what I'm doing. So, it happens to all of us. And so
Yes,
don't go around thinking, oh, I'm something's wrong with me, because that's
right.
not true. It's just, you've got to have, sometimes you need somebody else outside the situation, look at the situation.
That's right. So please ask your questions. Understand that we're here to support you, to encourage
Yeah.
you, and to see you succeed. And
Yeah,
and
that's what we want. We want successful, confident mamas or
that's right.
daddies or anybody who's homeschooling in the house. We want you successful.
And
It
successful,
matters.
confident children. And so, but yeah, this is a historical year, and
Mhm.
we're going to
It's
have a
going to
lot
be
of
an
eyes
amazing year. I
on
think
it,
it's going to be an amazing year, and we
and
want to do it right.
we're going to do it right, and we're going to support one another, and we're going to show people
Yes.
just what we're made of. And so you guys are amazing. I can see there's like 20 comments over here, but I have no
Oh,
clue.
no. Yeah,
Uh,
we'll have to go back. I don't always see who it is. You have to give StreamYard permission to put your name on there. So I'll look and I'm like, I have no idea who said that, so I can't call your name
yeah,
and answer the question. But we'll go back and look at them. And she has loaded all the worksheets and all these awesome stuff into the group. I'm going to move them into a unit so that you can find them later. They'll be a little bit more, you can find them easier. I don't
streamlined.
have everything. Yeah, I don't have everything in the group in units because I realized I had more than what I thought and I got lost. So I try, and if anybody wants to help me put things into units, let me know. I can always give
Um,
you some help. Give
I
you.
have an idea. I'll message you later. so, so yeah, yeah. So
Good. I like ideas.
okay,
Ideas usually keep me busy.
yeah. So it'll help you with that issue right there. So anyways, but yeah. So again, whatever you need.
Yeah.
Devin, any further questions? If there's any mamas that just
Yeah.
really don't
Y'all
want to
can
be
post. Y'all
public,
can tag Heather.
yeah,
You can tag her in the group. She's in the group. You can, if I see it, I can always, send you, make sure
yeah.
if you can find her information, I'll
Yeah.
connect you.
If you don't tag me, I won't see it. I mean,
And
that's just
it's Heather Renee in the group.
oh
So
yeah. Yeah. Heather Renee. Yeah.
you
So,
can tag her or I'll help tag, if I see your question.
okay. So that's great. Do we have anything that you see now
Anything
that
else?
we need
I
to
don't see
address?
anything right now. Nothing major.
Okay. Well, I will spend about in the next 30 minutes. I'll be in the group. I'll look at this stuff. So if you have something, I'll see it. Outside of that, everybody, I'm so excited.
I
Welcome to
know.
homeschooling and welcome to 2020-21
I
school
know.
year.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing.
hmm
Bye,
So,
guys. We'll see
okay,
you
bye
soon.
everybody.
Bye.